Welcome to the ADNA Presents. Today we are very happy to have very special guests, two guests today. We have the founders of Verbalize joining us from Washington State. Thank you for joining us.
Great to be here, Roy. Thanks for having us.
Thanks. And that's the state of Washington, so just to be clear.
There's always confusion.
Oh, I bet. It gets a little tricky, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's jump in. I've been enjoying following you on social media, and one of our first engagements, I was really excited to reach out to you because you are pretty clearly a synth voice AI company, but beyond that, you do so much more. And I've really enjoyed our conversations. Through the months or years that we've gotten to know each other, and I'm curious if we could share in that context, or maybe it would be better to just start with what your elevator pitch is of your company.
Yeah, I mean, I think we approach audio description, I think, from two different angles, which makes it really interesting when we first met. Our goal really is to make audio description ubiquitous on the internet. That's our goal. We early on in 2021, we met with dozens of blind and low vision folks, and they kind of expressed to us how important audio description was to them. We didn't really know about it before, but it really was, it had a big impact on us. And coming from computer science backgrounds, we felt that there was an opportunity for us to use AI to enable audio description at scale on the likes of YouTube, on the likes of Instagram, TikTok, on the platforms that today there's tons of content where almost none of it is audio described. That's kind of our goal, and that's how we met.
Yeah, just to add on to what Prithvi was saying, I think also we do approach this from a very access-oriented perspective. We believe very strongly in having full access to not only audio description, but also audio description creation opportunities by blind and low vision folks in specifically entertainment industries where there's certainly a lack of representation there. And we really hope that through our work on Verbalize through this platform, we're making it easier and for blind and low vision people to get involved and contribute to this growing, library of awesome descriptions that are out there.
One of the things that impressed me the most about our first conversation was that very thing of including blind professionals. That, I'm a voice talent, and I also advocate for blind professionals in this work. And for you as a AI company to be receptive to that conversation was welcomingly surprising, in the sense that it was, I really felt like we came together and heard each other out. There was something about understanding that, I've been pretty vocal about saying that I've got no interest in audio describing everyone's Twitter feed or calendar appointments. There's already something for that. But it felt like when it came to entertainment that there was another aspect that that I was really fearful about AI, that I think your conversations, just seeing how you were approaching it made that different, in the sense that, basically we were asking, how can we include blind professionals in this if the AI is going to be doing so many aspects of it? And I get the scale. I love that word scale. That's the ubiquity of AD is so important, but the cost could potentially eliminate one of the more important aspects of making sure that blind professionals are included. And so when we were talking about that, it was great to hear that shift, and to hear how that was being approached. I hope and I can cut this if you don't want to discuss it, but one of the things that really influenced me was the rung theory that you shared, that instead of all or nothing, it's everything or it's nothing, which has been primarily how most AD companies have been approaching this. I'm curious if you could address those.
Yeah, I think there's kind of two parts to this. So on one hand, with AI, it's not just either all AI or no AI. There's different pieces to the audio description pipeline, right? There's the script writing, there's this narrating, there's the mixing, there's some quality checks in the middle, and technology doesn't have to be used for all of them, right? There's ways to use technology, as you said, kind of like in rungs, where you kind of give yourself a head start. Instead of starting from 0, you start from 1 or 2 out of 10, and you leave plenty of space for humans to continue to do their art and do their to make audio description the art that it is. So that's one layer of it. And then the other layer, of course, is the scale side. So on the actual content-wise. The entertainment industry is, high bar of quality, both in terms of the actual production as well as the audio description track. And that's a space that I think will always require some level of human intervention, or have a human as be part of the process. Whereas for the larger scale opportunities, like YouTube, in these social platforms, that's where we just require technology to be part of it. There's no way for humans to do it. So that's definitely the two sides of what you were discussing and how we see audio description. I think that's where we came to find some alignment.
It's really exciting. The that human element, and you used the word art. I'm finding that those conversations are happening a lot more often, in that we're distinguishing those very many different roles. We've been talking about that for years on this podcast and outside of it. And to be able to see that come into the business aspect of it, particularly with your company, it's really exciting. Why is, from your perspective, the human element a part of audio description? Why is that relevant?
I think the human element is really important to being involved in audio description, just because at the end of the day, humans are going to be the people who are listening to this content. They're going to be watching these videos, and blind and low vision audiences are really the only people who can be the final arbiters of what's a good audio description track. As a sighted person, I can enjoy audio description as much as I want, but I'm not the primary audience, and I should not be the person saying, oh, like my needs take priority over any blind or low vision person's. So we really do believe that humans being involved in this art can make it beautiful, just like how you wouldn't have, a computer create the Mona Lisa or whatever, even though I think some people have already done that. You wouldn't want a computer to go onto, the biggest blockbuster movie and then just crank out an audio description track that doesn't really cater to what people actually want. So involving blind and low vision people into this process is critical, we believe, for making audio description really incredible.
How has that inclusion of blind professionals influenced your business? Can you name any specific examples? You already mentioned the interviews that you gave, and we had talked also about the difference when it comes to the business side, that that's, you're getting expertise, and that you did compensate the professionals for their expertise. That's one example. Can you name some other examples of maybe how your business has changed by including blind and low vision experts in this field?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the cool aspects about our product it's called the Studio. It's a website, and it's kind of a series of workspaces to audio describe a video. And so one of the steps that we've made is, and we're currently making it fully accessible. We've been constantly in contact with blind audio description talent, and getting them onto the platform to test it out, see, does it save them time when they're creating what they're creating? Does it help them? And our real goal is to, on the business side, we want to work with customers that don't describe things today. We want to convince them that it's an important thing to do, that it's valuable, that it'll impact their bottom line at the end of the day. And then on the supply side of how we actually provide them descriptions, we want to enable blind talent to use our platform to describe those videos. That's sort of the vision we have and the work that we're going towards.
Very cool. Without naming any names, could you share some excitement that you had on the outreach side? Any experiences that you'd be able to share? Thinking about the business itself, that when you said that you are looking to engage with companies that might not even know about audio description, maybe some successes or some processes towards success that you felt have, because of your business, have enabled those conversations to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not sure if we can actually name the names, but we're working with one of the largest advertisers in the world right now to describe their global set of advertisements online, which is a huge step. And we think that once they make the move, it will only cause more and more advertisers to follow suit. We're in contact with a workplace training video company, so a company that provides training videos to other companies. They have been responding extremely well because they know that regulation is likely around the corner with regards to needing to provide this. They want to get ahead of the curve, and they want to be the first mover. We have some early engagements with some very large social platforms, the ones that have like billions and billions of posts a day. We're making some inroads with them with kind of showcasing the importance of making these kinds of changes. And we're hoping we can continue to build with them and build, we call it the rails for audio description delivery. Like, it's one thing just to create an audio description track, you need some way to surface it on the platform. So those rails are kind of a critical piece that we're trying to focus on as well.
When it comes to the ethics of AI, you've made it very clear that the human element is one of the things that I think is part of your guiding principles, your foundation. Can you this is such an unfair question for a postscript. Is there any, could you talk about the ethics of AI and how your company approaches that?
Absolutely. So I think so I'll begin with the short term. The short term is we want to use technology, the building blocks of technology in the overall process. So many parts will be human, such as the quality checking and script reviewing, probably script writing as well for now. Like every part will have a human component as well as a technology component that you can pick between. In terms of the long term, we're hoping that over the next couple of years, we gather tons and tons of data that's written by humans, reviewed by humans, and use that as training data for these AI systems. At the end of the day, AI itself is not good or bad. It's usually the data that it's trained on that makes it perform good or bad in social contexts. And so it's our responsibility to make sure the data that's going in is of the highest quality, that it has no biases that sometimes crop up in certain AI systems. And of course, even in that world where maybe AI is producing more or playing a larger role in the production part of it, there will always be a human review component. If this is deployed on YouTube, there will be a way for a human to go in and say, this is kind of a questionable description, or just flag the description, and then a human will go in and take a look. So there will always be some level of a feedback mechanism to ensure that what we're doing is actually helping the world.
The companies that you're working with, I'm hearing two different things. First of all, that they want to make sure that they're doing what they're obligated to do, or what they soon will be obligated to do. But there's also the leadership aspect, where you said that they want to be the first, that they want to be in on the ground. I'm curious if there's something about that leadership that you found in these companies consistent. In other words, was there something about the way that they finally said yes to you and your company that was like the tipping point, or something that happened? And I'm asking in the context both to promote your company and also how other people could see how you found success in reaching out to some companies that might be unaware of AD.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's three kind of core value propositions that we provide to customers that really resonates with them. One is the regulation side of things that you mentioned. The second thing is there's actually these lists of like the top 500 companies that have all committed in their mission to accessibility and made it a top priority of the company. And that CEO will speak about it at every opportunity, and it's just such a core part of their operations today. There's 500 companies. I'm sure there's many more that are just not big enough to be part of that list. But it is a real trend in the industry where people are realizing that it's not just about the abled people that have it's about the hundreds of millions of people that cannot experience the platform in the way that sighted people might be able to. This is a huge market. There's 300 million blind people in the world. It's going to grow to 500 million blind and low vision people in the world. This is a huge market. And then I think the third thing is that audio description isn't just for blind or low vision people, right? Audio description, we kind of think about it as just another way to consume content, right? Like take closed captioning, for example. We love to think about closed captioning. It started out as an accessibility technology for deaf and hard of hearing people. But today, sighted or people that aren't deaf or hard of hearing, we use it all the time when we're in a noisy environment, when we're in a public space, anything like that. So we see audio description as a very similar sort of technology where when we're driving, when we're doing chores, when we're on a walk, this is how we can still experience the video that's out there. And so we are incredibly, I mean, that just opens up the market for these customers that we're speaking to. It's not just 300 million people, which is already big to begin with. It's like literally billions of people. And this will make a huge difference. So those are kind of the three ways that we talk to customers, and they found it pretty compelling.
Specifically on that last comparison with the closed captioning and the use outside of its intended accessibility, what I really love hearing is that you are using that and also simultaneously using the very clear different roles that audio description is needed to get to that point, that you're not conflating the transcription of closed captioning with the entire audio process that's needed to make audio description happen. And it's really exciting to hear. Lucy, I'm curious if I could ask you, you wrote a paper on audio description, and it was great to see in the footnote that our podcast was included, along with some other some really well-known footnotes. But the way that you crafted that paper, I'm curious. Maybe this is a chicken and egg question, but your business as well as your paper. Could you talk about your motivation for one or both, or how they supported each other?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess one thing that really excites me about computer science is the possibility of creating impact at scale. And what better impact than positive impact? I think there's a lot of negative impact that computer science can have as well. And I think something that really motivated me to kind of start thinking about this audio description problem was being introduced to accessibility in one of my first weeks at university, is really understanding how inaccessible technology is and what steps we need to take to get there. Obviously, we don't have all the answers yet, but it's really important to really have these like ways of thinking in place so that you're not adding accessibility on at the very end. I've seen like this quote where people talk about accessibility as the blueberries in a blueberry muffin. You got to bake them in from the very beginning. You got to consider it from the start, not just kind of slap them on at the end and then call it a blueberry muffin just because it has blueberries on it. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I think for me, accessibility just seems like something that's so lacking, even though it is the right thing to do. And it's one thing to be like, oh, from this company side, we're actually providing these solutions to people who are making these big decisions, like all these platforms who are like deciding to, add closed captions, but then kind of tabling audio description for a later day because they think it's not as important. Or, other companies that just don't see the business need yet, even though they've already verbally committed to, being accessible companies. So that was kind of the inspiration behind, starting this company and really working on audio description full force. But then I wanted to also do a little bit more, focused research on how to involve blind and low vision audio description writers into the pipelines, because I think that's something that's currently kind of unexplored. There's very, very few people because of this, horrible stigma that blind and low vision people for some reason can't write audio description, even though they can be trained writers, like that's just something that exists. Unfortunately, this ableism that's both external and internal that I wanted to kind of investigate and see how technology could then, kind of reverse this kind of stigma that's really hampering a lot of people, unfortunately.
Wonderful. I loved when we talked about that was, the internal and external challenges with blind writers, that back to the rung theory, that really brought things together, and being able to see how this can come together and make sure that the inclusion is really happening. And it's so exciting to see what you've done with your company. It's just great. And I have to ask, any other further comments that you'd like to share with our audience?
So another part of what Lucy was saying of using technology as a sort of in the rungs of enabling people that maybe don't describe things today or can't describe things today, enabling them to do it. Part of it, I think, is adding standardization to the process. I think that today there's a lot of different ways of creating audio description. I think in just our discussions with many vendors, it seems like their workflows are completely different between each one of them. And so, I think in order to make audio description, make the industry itself more scalable in what it's doing today, there needs to be more standards in the process. And, we're hoping that by building a dedicated studio, for the different workspaces, and by enabling more and more people to be able to describe things on the platform. That might lead to some level of standardization across the industry, both for usage in the entertainment space. I think that's where audio description is most commonly used. So of course there, but then also with all these other spaces that we want to bring audio description to. All these social platforms, all these video networks, advertisements, TV, everywhere. Like we want to enable that to happen. And we're hoping that, as we keep gathering more partners along the way, some huge advocates like you, Roy, we can make it happen.
I was going to say, mutually feeling the advocacy there. We need to talk about Kevin's Way at some point. Lucy, do you have any additional thoughts you'd like to share with our audience?
Honestly, I think just increasing the amount of attention on audio description, making it more mainstream is always a big part of our goal, because we are obviously, like, the three of us, or like any number of people in the audio description community. This community can always grow, and really relies on the support of the entire blind and low vision community, but also sighted allies, to really understand how access is a human right. I think I heard this on a podcast that Nefertiti was on the other day. She said, access is a human right. And this is fully true. Unfortunately, a lot of people still don't understand that, or they don't think that audio description is critical for whatever reason, but really making sure that everyone can really understand why this is so important, because it really is.
Thanks for sharing that. Any other places that we can follow you, the website, social media, etc.?
Yeah, so you can follow us on Twitter. Our handle is at VERBALEYESCO, so Verbalize Co on Twitter. It's a pun in case that wasn't coming through. And then also our website is the same, VERBALEYES.co, verbalize.co. And then also, if you want to access the studio directly, you can also visit studio.verbalize.co, and that'll take you right there.